So good afternoon, everyone. I hope you hear me. And I'm Dmitry Bratanov. I'm research engineer working for Queensland University of Technology since 2013. And I'm really want to thank you first for your enthusiasm and interest to this program and for joining this. I think it's really great opportunity. And it might give you new insights in what kind of things you would expect from university, from your career. It's, I think, very valuable. The earlier you would get these insights, the better from my point of view. So within the QUT, I belong to the Institute for Future Environments. This is the place where we strongly believe that the biggest impact is easier to achieve by bringing experts from different domains, from different areas. So we call this interdisciplinary approach. And today I will talk about the remote sensing with airborne robots, with the drones. So most of my experience is in UAV, in drones. I have my PhD from Moscow in navigation and control of drones. And as I said, since 2013, I'm working for Queensland University of Technology in Brisbane. And my team called Research Engineering Facility. So we are based in Da Vinci Precinct, in QUT Da Vinci Precincts in the Brisbane airport area. And we are a team of professional engineers, not academics, pilots and project managers. And our focus on aerospace and automation, and we provide this cross-organizational service, engineering services for academics, for students, and for external clients from industry, from government, where we use these automated techniques and tools and equipment for a variety of different projects, from precise agriculture, from environmental monitoring, and for autonomous cars as well. So over the last 5 years, we completed over 115 different projects. We call them operations, flight operations, and they range from really different areas. You can see some snapshots on that slide. In 2018, for instance, we worked during Commonwealth Games, providing 24/7 security drone coverage for the athletes village, and you can see the 30-time magnification on this on the one of the camera we used on the drone. It basically, from that point of view, you can see how many people can climb the skywalk on the Q7, which is like 7 kilometers away from the athletes village. So really, the point I'm trying to make here, that the cameras, the equipment nowadays is experiencing really amazing growth and gives fantastic opportunities. So we were flying 24/7 at night, and this image I took somewhere around midnight as well, like 30-time zoom camera, and this shot was done from flying aircraft. Pretty amazing stabilization. You can see lots of details. We're actually really proud that talking about the moon, but QUT made its presence in the IEEE Spectrum magazine. So last year it was a special edition, and it was fully committed to the moon landing success 50 years ago, 50th anniversary, but still QUT made its presence. And that article which I shared with my students about the exploration and techniques which we applied in Great Barrier Reef on detecting the coral bleaching, it made its presence in this journal. So our team is relatively compact. So we have five people. 4 of them are pilots and a project manager. And with this internship placement, we will be working on the remote sensing. And what the remote sensing is, it's a science of obtaining information about the environment from a distance. So behind this definition, I think there are a couple of important things. That it's science. It means it's systematically arranged and repeatedly tested techniques and methods. I also want to highlight the information. We're not we're not focusing on just heaps of images. We need to obtain the knowledge, extract this information about the environment. And environment can be also completely different. It can be the ocean, it can be Red River Reef, it can be some fields or buildings, or even small objects like a car or something. So we can sense the state of this environment and give a researcher a really different perspective. So with the so here on that slide, I think I will make this available to the students. I have put some links about some of the recent media releases, and one of them is a story made by DJI. It's a world leader in the drones. So they came to Australia and filmed our techniques on koala habitat research. So QUT, I think it's a good success for QUT. We also were involved with the Queensland government assessing the roads for readiness for autonomous driving. So we built that Zoe car, which you've seen on the first slides, where lots of sensors and they record all together, and trying to get understanding, trying to get advice to the Department of Main Roads on what kind of things they want to expect from the autonomous cars, and how to test these autonomous cars on the Australian roads. So we are also really happy to see that these techniques are very broad range. And so, for instance, you might heard about that the NASA will launch the new rover to the Mars in July this year, Mars 2020, and we would also work with some of the people who are involved in this project on using the latest techniques on how to get the 3D model and how to get the best advances in the mapping and deploy to the completely different planets. So in an attempt to search for life. So the placement which I would host would be based in the Samford Ecological Research Facility. This is the QUT area, QUT land, where we usually deploy our equipment and do some testing and some evaluation. So, for instance, we have built a relatively big 3D model of this thing. I hope you would see this video. So this video shows the combined thousands of images collected from the drone, which basically reconstruct that environment. And it's a forest. It's a really complex environment to reconstruct because the branches are moving, the leaves are really tiny, but still that technology gives this opportunity. So we used relatively basic, I think we conducted these flights 2 years ago, and we used the Phantom 3 Pro drone. And with students, we would target on a slightly different area. We would target on the area where the biggest building is in that area, and we would collect data and then process them, and we'll get a more refined, higher resolution 3D model of that barracks building. So we can see on that slide. So the fundamental thing which is underneath of this remote sensing is photogrammetry, and it's only one approach, which is using the process called multiple point triangulation. So easy to say, but there are at least 4 big components in this thing. It's you need to prepare a flight plan for your drone, which has a camera, so you need to configure the camera as well. Plus, you need to collect some ground truth. You need to collect some exact locations using the surveillance techniques and RTK GPS systems to make that really rigid in space. Plus, you need to process this data, which is completely a black box and interesting process. So I hope by the end of this tutorial, by the end of this session at SURF, the full day at SURF, the students would get some understanding what kind of steps are involved and what's the importance of particular steps. So the purpose of this thing would be that with this demonstration, it's not something really groundbreaking. It's a common technique now, but we will try to demonstrate this, that it's relatively easy and it enabled the temporal studies. That means that now we can see how the environment changes from one time to another. We're also setting the ground truth, the benchmark, the foundation for evaluating other mapping methods. Sometimes it's impractical to collect so many images and then wait when they would process. So some methods now emerging with artificial intelligence where they can reconstruct and the depth on a single image and trying to understand the dimensions of the objects just by looking into one. So they're really promising things in this domain. And then finally, we want to also promote the best practices. So how to operate your drone. So everyone can buy this now, and majority of them have really good cameras. But what else people need to be aware about this flight operation and the risks and how to process this data. So hopefully we would manage to do it somewhere, I think in July it's planned, and we would use our best equipment to demonstrate this to the students. So I was also asked to give some sort of advice to the students and to the participants of this program, and it's really easy to give advice, of course. It's much more complex to follow this advice. So I think my advice is that I agree with the statement that the most valuable skill in that century is the collaboration skill. So you need to basically find a team and build a team and make a progress, augmenting and helping each other. And I think success for this collaboration as well is to identify your strengths and leverage on your strengths. So just using your best things, something where you really can do something what you like to do, and something what you, if you do it a really long time, you would be unique in doing this thing. So yeah, but I'm happy for any questions, guys, and I really hope that one day we would go to that area in Sanford and would demonstrate some techniques and state-of-the-art equipment which we have in QUT. So now I'm passing to Diana or Emma. Maybe they could have some questions. Maybe they see some questions from you.
Hey guys, if you have any questions, just type it in the chat, or you're welcome to just speak. I have a question, Dmitry.
Yeah, sure.
Can you talk about a few of the projects that you've worked on? You mentioned a bit about the Commonwealth Games, and you mentioned about your work at SURF and the mapping koalas and the habitat. Can you expand on some other ones, like other projects you've worked on?
Sure. Yeah. So I put some of the slides here. So I think I circulated the paper which we wrote about the assessment of Great Barrier Reef. So this was really a unique operation. Actually, you can see it here. We've done it together with Australian Institute for Marine Science, and the people actually, they are really enthusiastic divers. So they spent basically 8 hours diving and surveying the Great Barrier Reef and corals, and they put some interesting markers. And the beauty of the working with them together, so they are really responsive on our requests. So usually they took a sample and put it in a liquid nitrogen and then analyze it somewhere later in the lab. But we asked them to get the coordinates of this assessment. So basically, they took the GPS equipment with them. So obviously, it doesn't work on the ground, underwater, but they managed to record images with geotech, and now it gave us fantastic truth for the assessing how that bleaching seen from the sky, and what actually how the aims the professional scientists, marine scientists, assessing this. So it's just a fantastic correlation between the real ground truth from the scientists and how the things are seen from the sky. So and that made a really good impact, because after that we see some successful applications for grants and lots of some funding being applied. For instance, Microsoft AI Foundation gave funding for cloud processing of this hyperspectral data to speed up the bleaching assessment. So we're really happy to see these sort of interactions with leading experts in the world. I think it's and it was really surreal actually to fly the drone in that ocean, because we have been in the area where like 100 kilometers offshore, so you don't see any references. It's just the ocean, and sometimes it was really tricky to launch the drone, and drone knows where to go because you're setting the GPS locations, but for us, sometimes it was a bit of surprise that, yeah, apparently it's slightly there, the area of interest is slightly there, slightly in different locations. So it was a really great experience to work with Australian Institute of Marine Science.
Yeah, you've got quite a few questions in the group chat. Can you see them on your side?
Yeah, so I have some questions here. Let's maybe start from the beginning. What are the differences in setup between drones for photogrammetry and scientific usage? So I think it's pretty similar setup. So for scientific, they're using much more probably refined cameras and more expensive lenses. For drone, the limitations is size and power always. What are the other examples of the usage of drones in your area of study? Yeah, there are lots of, you can see on that slide, lots of different things. So yeah, the most successful, primarily the big domain is the precise agriculture, environmental assessment, air quality, and communication, and some sort of mapping applications. They're really big. Can you use 3D mapping capability from drones to utilize it for more efficient GPS tracking and updating lens structures? Yes, you can, but to build a good 3D map, you need to use efficient and high accuracy GPS tracking. So these things are involved in building the exact and the right 3D map. What stance do you have on the ethics about the use of drones for policing and spying on the public to increase security to the government? That's an interesting, good question. So I think it's a big problem, frankly. For drones can be invasive and they can intrude and can invade your privacy. But nowadays, I think we live in a very interesting world. So the privacy is really watered, and but we will follow the best advice, the best guidance, which is CASA in Australia. CASA is setting these guidelines and techniques, but this is indeed very complex issue. What kind of invasion people agree to have in their privacy? It's I think it's an interesting question. What was your path to where you at the moment? What uni courses did you do? I did my PhD and masters in Moscow in aerospace domain. So I was always concentrated on the on drones, on UAV. So I spent 10 years at uni just doing that stuff, and I moved to Germany, then worked there, and eventually to Australia. Is it possible to make 3D model using infrared? Yes, it is possible. When you would create it, so when you need it, when you need something to see what some heat signatures in 3D space, yeah, you can do this. You said that there was an interdisciplinary approach. What disciplines are involved in particular? So majority of different disciplines. So we have bioscientists, we have the surveyors, we have pilots who are flying the drones, and electrical engineers, aerospace engineers. So this is probably the good mix. Is it possible to obtain survey-grade accuracy from UAV mapping? Yes, it is possible, but you need to basically use the right drone and lots of things like sort of PPK, RTK positioning must be involved in this thing. And the last question, will drones introduce uncertainty when recording wildlife? For instance, the noise of drone frightened the research object and therefore altered its behavior. This question is usually addressed in all ethics applications, which we always do for operation where this thing can happen. In reality, we have never seen, we conducted more than 2,000 flights and never birds attacked them, but it can be still done. They can attack the drone. And we see that, for instance, like animals like koala or wallabies or kangaroos, they don't bother. They have like, they probably have like 3 seconds of attention when they see it's still there, and they're not really interested in this after that. I think the last, in terms of mapping uncharted territory, what solution do you have when you are asked to send a drone into a harsh environment where it could potentially get damaged, an environment where humans could not personally set food? This is the beauty of the drones. Yeah, you can send it to the very challenging and dangerous environments indeed, and you risk the equipment, but it's not the cost of human life, which is a completely different thing. So this is the beauty of using these machines for remote sensing and for disaster management, for reconnaissance, for search and rescue missions as well. So we all in Australia, for schools, actually, there's a competition, it's annual competition, UAV challenge, where students and building the drone and then apply some machine learning and image detection and people detection algorithms to find the outback jaw and give them some sort of water or I think some sort of supply. So I think it's a good good tool and good technology for these things. I might stop answering questions. I think it's 26 minutes all the time.
All right. Thank you very much, Dmitry, for your presentation.
Thank you very much for questions, and really good questions. Yeah, thank you.